Hi Chris, you have done an incredible job reaching out and distinguishing yourself in my inbox, and I wanted you to know that in fact I think this is the only cold email I've responded to in a long time. That's pretty powerful. Today we're going to talk about a really important topic if you're going to be successful in B2B sales. Isn't that right, Bella? How to write incredible cold emails that get busy executives' attention. Sending a cold email is like casting out a fishing lure where you're hoping the customer's going to bite as it sits out there in their email inbox, and it's out there in a sea of other sales reps outreach like lures that they've casted out themselves. How do you create an email that is differentiated, that stands out, that gets that executive to say yes to the meeting and go from a cold prospect to a warm client? Today is going to be a complete guide on how to write an amazing cold email, going through my principles and process that I developed when I was selling at Google Cloud. I actually shared this process and taught it to BDRs and sales development reps at Google Cloud. I even shared it with field sales reps. I shared it with partners in the GCP partner ecosystem, and everyone loved it because it worked. In that first year when I developed these principles and this process, which includes 5 key steps to writing amazing cold emails, I generated over 10 million in closed net new revenue for Google Cloud. And I got meetings with top companies like OfferUp, Sur la Table, if I'm saying that right, and others. So you're gonna wanna stay for the whole video to get the principles and the process, but also to get email template examples. I'm gonna show you some real emails that worked. By the way, prior, I'm going to show you an email example that didn't work, because that's helpful too. And I'm also going to talk about subject lines, and I'm going to give you some examples on subject lines that will actually get customers to click on your email. Because if they don't click the email, how the heck are they even going to get to your message? They're not. And finally, I'm going to talk about my follow-up process, because the reality is most leads take 6 follow-ups to get the meeting. It's just a part of sales. Persistence pays off. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button because the YouTube algorithm likes that too, and will show this video to more people and more sales reps that can benefit from the message. And by the way, if you're interested in breaking into tech sales as a career because you see it as a great opportunity to create freedom in your life, make a lot of money, build great relationships and character and skills, then reach out to me on LinkedIn at Chris Bussing, or send me an email at chrisbussingchannel@gmail.com and we can hop on a call. I can help walk you through the whole process of translating your story to tech sales, transforming your LinkedIn and resume, interviewing well, building your sales acumen, and hopefully landing the job, or at least increasing your chances of doing so. So feel free to reach out and we can hop on a call to see if there's a fit. And of course, make sure to subscribe for weekly sales and personal growth hacks that you can chew on like snacks. So before diving into the 5 principles and the process that I developed at Google to write incredible cold emails that get busy executives' attention, I wanted to show you a non-example, a cringe-worthy email that really didn't work. So let me read it for you. The subject line is "Get Apple-like videos in 2022." First of all, that doesn't sound very extraordinary. It doesn't grab your attention. It sounds very generic. So there's a high chance that the email won't even be opened in the first place. But in the case the prospect did open the email, this is what it said. "Hi Chris, is this my lucky day today? I've been quite persistent with my follow-ups only because I think that we can add a lot of value to your marketing efforts. However, my efforts have gone in vain so far, and I do not wish to impose any further. Hence, this will be my last email to you, and I truly hope that we can at least have an exploratory call. I'm going to leave you with a copy of our capabilities deck that has some of our work, prices, processes, etc. Goodbye." Oh, that's a funny ending. So the first problem with this is that this email is so self-oriented. It says, I, me. "Hi Chris, is this my lucky day? My lucky day. I think that we can add a lot of value." Whenever you have too many I's and it's too self-oriented, that is going to turn a customer off. It's really important to get off of ourselves and focus more on them. How do we help them? What are the problems they're facing? What do they care about? The salesperson who wrote this email also assumes that they can add a lot of value to the marketing efforts of the person they're reaching out to, but they give no specific indication of how they would do that, what specific results they produce for similar clients. It's extremely vague and assumptive. And they're super lazy and they just drop their capabilities deck in the email as an attachment and they say goodbye as if they're running off, which is super dramatic. It's also dramatic when they use words like, "Hence, this will be my last email." It's just a little too over the top. Let's be a little more real with our language. And there's no strong call to action at the end. It's just a goodbye. And do you think a prospect's going to be compelled to respond and say, wait, I'm sorry, here's some specific times that I can meet? You're putting the work all on them to read the deck, to provide times, which they're probably not going to do. No matter how persistent or annoying you think you might have been in your follow-ups, make sure to close with a question asking for availability and proposing a few days and times to meet with the customer. So if I were to transform this email, this is what it would look like. It's less self-oriented, talks about concrete value, it acknowledges the fact that, yes, I've been following up a lot, and it ends with a specific ask. Now that we've seen a great non-example of how not to write a good cold email, let's dive into the meat and potatoes of what this video is all about, which are my 5 principles to writing incredible cold emails that get busy executives to say yes to your meeting. Again, I developed these principles at Google Cloud, so let's dive into the first one. The first principle is to relate like a rock star. In your subject line and in the beginning of your emails, call out personal ties between yourself and the person you're reaching out to, or organizational ties and commonalities between your organization and your company, and say the values of the company you're reaching out to. Make it feel warm, as if you guys have a shared common context. And even if you create it artificially, the effort pays off. The reality is that most executives will not take a meeting with a sales rep unless it's through a warm introduction. So if you don't have an individual who can make a warm introduction to an executive at a company you're trying to reach out to, the next best thing is to relate like a rock star and put in the research and do the due diligence to call out those personal ties and make it warm from the start. Make sure that your effort to relate to the individual you're reaching out to is authentic and not forced. And you're not just saying, hey, I saw you have a dad on Facebook, I have a dad too. I know that's an exaggerated example, but you get the point. What's funny is psychology backs up the power of calling out common connections between strangers. According to Psychology Today, in studies where people just read about a stranger and don't actually meet them, finding out they have a lot in common with the stranger greatly boosts liking, because they have nothing else upon which to base their impression. So in other words, calling out commonalities with yourself and a stranger over email is more effective in creating a connection than if you were to meet in person and talk in person. Use that to your advantage. Here are some real-world examples of relating like a rock star from some of my email outreach. Dave, I've been reading about Brand Verity's culture, values, and mission, and it seems our organizations share a lot in common. Boom. Great way to make it warm from the start. Now, Dave, the CEO, did not respond after that first email, so I followed up and I related like a rock star again. Dave, friendly bump here, saw you went to MIT. I lived in Davis Square in Somerville for 3 years. Another commonality to call out, but a little more personal. It turns out we lived in the same area, and I was familiar with where Dave was living. There was a lot more that went into this email, but of course you can see that I related like a rock star from the beginning. And look at this response. Hi Chris, you have done an incredible job reaching out and distinguishing yourself in my inbox, and I wanted you to know that in fact I think this is the only cold email I've responded to in a long time. What's incredible is someone might actually take a meeting with you just on the basis that they think that you would be enjoyable to spend time with and they might like you, even if there isn't a fit from a product or solutions perspective. And hey, people buy from people they like. So use this principle of relating like a rock star to get your foot in the door. So in order to relate like a rock star, you have to put in a little bit of research. So where can you gather your ammunition from? If we're looking for evidence of personal ties, we can go to reference their peers at the company who we've spoken to previously. We can reference common connections on LinkedIn, and that's why it's so important to build your LinkedIn Rolodex and maintain it. You can reference a common alma mater, like a common university you attended, a common past company, a common city, a common personal interest or hobby, common values. In a lot of cases, this is all found on LinkedIn. Also, did the individual work at a past company who your current company is working with today? This is more relevant if you're working at a large enterprise company. Look that up so you can call it out. Now, if you're looking for evidence of organizational ties, you can look to reference common missions and values and similar global ambitions between your companies. You can recognize joint synergies between the markets you're pursuing and joint customers. Is one of their big customers a customer of yours? Here's an example of relating at the organizational level, and it helped that I was at Google, which is such a big company, so there was a greater chance there would be ties between our organizations. This email was to a CMO. Scott, Google is grateful for our partnership around RCS. I found that literally by Googling. I didn't even know what RCS was. I'm responsible for the relationship between Google Cloud and ZipWhip, and I noticed that at SendGrid, you were a part of the Google Cloud Platform Partner Program. So I looked up and found that at a past company, this individual had worked with Google Cloud and built a partnership similar to the one that I wanted to build his current company. That's relating like a rock star and making it warm from an organizational perspective. Again, I want to hammer home how important it is to add everyone on LinkedIn that you know, because that will become a strategic asset, and the more people you know on LinkedIn, the more opportunities you will find to relate like a rock star and pick out common ties and common connections between you and executives you're going to reach out to. It's going to help you get the meeting. And by the way, taking a hybrid approach between an email and then following up on LinkedIn and then email again is called a multi-threaded approach, and it's really effective. Here's an example of a case of a multi-threaded approach that worked for me. Now, after we relate like a rock star, ingredient number 2, which is typically demonstrated in the next part of your email or the body of the email, is channeling your inner hostage negotiator. In other words, hostage negotiators demonstrate an incredibly high degree of empathy and understanding is the basis of influence. Hostage negotiators are negotiating with very irrational people and criminals, but when those criminals feel understood, even they can be influenced. So if you can show a customer that you have immersed yourself in their world and done your research and you understand the challenges and opportunities you're facing and you communicate that, you understand that, and that you might have a solution, that will go a long way. That is the foundation of trust, and again, the gateway to influence and getting the meeting. Call out a challenge and opportunity in the customer's world that you've helped a peer of theirs, maybe a similar company, solve, and show that you understand the changing dynamics in their market. Another way to channel your inner hostage negotiator in the body of your email and connect with the prospect you're reaching out to is to use their specific language that they use on their LinkedIn profile, or if you can't find any media information on the LinkedIn profile of the individual you're reaching out to, use the language of the organization based on their website. It's called mirroring and matching, and when you parrot back the same language that an individual or an organization uses, it leads to influence. They feel understood, and people tend to buy from people they like, and they like people who are similar. So do that research and figure out the language the individual is using and share it with them in the email. I had a CEO call me back in response to one of my emails because I articulated so clearly in that email that I intimately understood their challenges. And I did that by researching their 10K. They're a public company, so they have to produce a 10K financial report for the SEC. And in that 10K, in the risk factors section, are the greatest fears of the CFO and the biggest risks to the company. And in the email, I spoke directly to them. Here is the email that I sent, and he called me back. So of course, just like relating like a rock star, channeling your inner hostage negotiator requires some research. So where can you gather your ammunition? First, when you're looking to demonstrate empathy around the business you're reaching out to or their market, you can acknowledge and flatter recent success and growth. Flattery does work, even when people know they're being flattered. You can acknowledge a recent event or change in the organization that you find online through an article. You can reference goals or challenges in a 10K publicly filed report, or if no 10K, as is the case with most startups, you can reference articles found online. Ideally, articles that feature the executive that you are specifically reaching out to. So use your friend Google and Google the executive and see if an article comes up. When reaching out to an executive before talking to them, you can gather information on the state of their business from conversations with individuals that are lower down on the totem pole who may be aligned to them, so maybe an IT manager or engineer before talking to the CTO, so that you really intimately understand their business and their challenges before reaching out. I had a mentor at Google who was a field sales rep when I was an inside sales rep that was great at this, and she would always wait to reach out to the executive until after she had talked with some of the people that were closer to the actual day-to-day and technology. You can reference similar customers that you have helped solve similar challenges and produce positive results. The idea of the proximal peer is very motivating. People from a psychological perspective want to do what their peers are doing. You can share an unexpected commercial insight or market insight based on your research. This is commonly what challenger sellers do, and the challenger sales methodology is one of the top methodologies. And you can demonstrate an understanding and appreciation of their product and show that you use their product and flatter them. And finally, again, use their language by looking on LinkedIn and seeing how an individual speaks about their company and the market and their opportunities and challenges, and use language that's connected to passion and emotion as well. Here's an example of channeling my inner hostage negotiator and calling out that I had seen a client is growing by 1,000 agents a month and hiring staff to keep up, and I had done research also to find that they were interested in global expansion as a company. So I was able to call that out and really empathize with the goals and the growth and the challenges that this company was facing. This email was to the CEO. He passed me along apparently to the CIO, and the CIO reached out and I got the meeting. The third principle to apply when writing great cold emails that get meetings is to give to get. Be generous, because generosity triggers the law of reciprocity and people will give you things in return. So in your email, in the body of your email, as a part of the value that you offer an idea or an insight that is beneficial to the business you're reaching out to. Offer an opportunity to network and connect with other executives, because executives love those opportunities. Invite a customer to a fun event like Topgolf or some conference. If you're a BDR, see if your field rep or inside rep will be willing to put on an event to take customers to, and maybe offer a DoorDash for a virtual lunch. I've had customers accept meetings based on that alone. Everyone loves a good snack. The point is, again, give to get. Be generous, and then through the law of reciprocity, an individual will probably take the meeting. And all you can ask for is your foot in the door to have the chance to discover the customer's needs and see if there's a fit. Some other ways to bring value are to provide opportunities for education, to offer free assessments, and ultimately offer ideas on how to increase revenue, cut costs, and reduce risk, because that's what all businesses are trying to do. Here's an example of giving to get. I invited an executive to Google Cloud Next, which is a huge conference that is a lot of fun with learning opportunities, the opportunity to network, and of course the opportunity to drink and even see concerts. Now, not everyone works for Google and has the opportunity to take advantage of such a big conference, but find your own way to give value. Again, it might just be a simple DoorDash for a virtual lunch, so you can meet the customer, greet them, and put a face to a name and explore the opportunity. The fourth principle to apply when writing great cold emails that get busy executives' attention is to throw in some special sauce. What I mean by this is be quirky, be different, because that's how you stand out. And ultimately, be human, because people want to connect with and buy from human beings, not sales robots. There's a concept in sales and in life called pattern interrupt. You can't be perceived as better if you're not perceived as different. So when you're quirky and authentic and unique in your outreach and your messaging, you will stand out, and it's more likely the customer is going to take a meeting. A great example of this was when I reached out to the CMO of Sur La Table. I sent this email and I actually got recognized by my executive leadership at Google for my googliness, which again is being quirky and out there, a little eccentric and creative. I said to the CMO, my mom bought me a macaroon making class for my birthday in Boston years back, and I went into the class skeptical but came out with a big smile, a bunch of macaroons, and even made new friends on the train ride home, sharing them with strangers. Then I went on to say, I'm reaching out to you because you spend over $2 million in Google Ads, and we work with similar organizations to turn that data into insights that improve attribution and the ROI on your marketing dollars. Now, the second part is more channeling your inner hostage negotiator and empathizing, but that first part was throwing in special sauce and being quirky and being human. How can you be human in your email outreach? And another aspect of that was channeling my inner hostage negotiator, which I talked about before, was that I was able to empathize and that I went through a macaroon making class at Sur La Table, and I've actually tried their product. So it gave me a much higher degree of understanding and empathy and credibility. So we can see there how that was a combination of relating like a rock star and throwing in special sauce and channeling our inner hostage negotiator. Now, the fifth principle for writing incredible cold emails that get executives to take the meeting is to always be closing. You have to make an ask. Ask, 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 and you shall receive. Remember that non-example in the beginning where the individual just said goodbye and they ran away? The customer isn't going to take responsibility and ownership to just volunteer time to you. Maybe they will, but usually you need to make an ask where you throw out a couple times to connect and you put the ball in their court, but you make it easy for them to pick a time. When you make an ask, make sure to be clear about your ask and what you're asking for, and to frame it as an opportunity in the customer's world. For example, an opportunity to connect with yourself or an executive at your company and create an open line of communication for a relationship that could be fruitful in the future, even if it isn't fruitful today. You could present an opportunity to gain a new insight about their industry and how you're helping similar customers solve relevant challenges. You can share opportunities on how you can help them increase revenue, reduce costs, and reduce risk, which is what every business wants to do. And you can also say at the least the prospect will come away with some new ideas about their business and about their industry that will make the conversation worthwhile even if there isn't a fit. Some other hacks around making the ask for a meeting is lowering the commitment level to 20 minutes instead of 30. For example, we're asking for a meeting at 12:15, which applies that it's going to be a shorter meeting than if it was at 12 o'clock. When you get on the call, if it goes well, you can always ask for more time in the meeting. But lowering that commitment level will make it more likely that the prospect will accept your meeting. Also, I'm not always the best at this, but where possible, suggest a few specific times for the customer to respond to. It makes it easier on them than them having to go to their calendar and volunteer times that work on their end. And of course, make sure to use language that works, language that sounds nice and is attractive to the customer. For example, I'd love to understand your vision, offer relevant insights around our differentiation, explore partnership opportunities, identify opportunities for mutual growth, explore opportunities to increase revenue, decrease risk, decrease cost, accelerate time to market, differentiate your solution, share our latest announcements and innovations, collaborate, augment and complement your existing investments. You get the point. Here's an example of a few strong asks that led to a meeting. Do you have time to connect, or can you connect me with your new CIO to align to your vision and share our differentiated story helping companies like yours? Now, as I alluded to in the beginning of this video, subject lines are very important. You want to have a subject line that stands out and catches the customer's attention, because if they don't like your subject line and it doesn't grab their attention in a sea of email outreach that they're being inundated with, they're not even going to click on your email and open it. And no matter how good your message is, they're not going to read it, and you can't get a meeting if that's the case. So here are some examples of subject lines that can be effective. First name and a short message. Please advise, cloud partnership, or whatever you want to put, but that please advise really works. I actually got that from a mentor at Oracle. Per my voicemail, leave a short, crisp voicemail that basically says your name and a reason you're calling. For example, hey, this is Chris. I'm calling about Google Cloud. Can you give me a call back at X number? Make it mysterious, and then use that as an opportunity to say per my voicemail. And it's likely the customer's going to open your email to find out what it's about. Bob or XYZ customer referred me to you. Ideally, you talk to someone who knows that individual and you get a warm referral, or you get their permission to use their name as a reference. That actually is one of the most powerful ways to get a meeting, because it makes it so warm. Another example is enjoyed your article on XYZ. It shows you did some homework and the customer might be intrigued. You can see in this case, I called out that I went to a common university by saying Hoya Saxa from Google. At Georgetown, we had an expression, Hoya Saxa, and if you went to Georgetown, you know what that is. So it's a very personal way to open up an email and a subject line. And some final examples of subject lines that are a great example of pattern interrupt are just putting thoughts or connecting. Or you could say connecting in parentheses this week or next. Here's a final email example that really illustrates all of these principles coming together. Subject line, Hoya Saxa from Google. Mark, I saw on LinkedIn that you went to Georgetown as well. Google is grateful to have you as a marketing analytics platform partner, and from a cloud perspective, we want to earn the opportunity to help differentiate your offerings in the market. After reading about your investments in the Mind Innovation Lab, as well as 10K risk factors that we address in a differentiated way, I thought it would make sense to invite you to our Cloud Next 19 conference coming up April 9th through the 11th. Customers find the conference to be a valuable opportunity to connect with cloud leadership, top technical minds, and network with other organizations that are leveraging cloud to drive business opportunity. Do you have 30 minutes for a brief virtual introduction to discuss your business and whether it makes sense to get you tickets to Next 19? You can see in the subject line I am relating like a rock star, as well as in the beginning of the email, and that I channel my inner hostage negotiator referencing their innovation lab and the research I did according to their 10K, and I mentioned that we could probably address their risk factors in a differentiated way. I'm giving to get, I'm being very generous by offering an invite to Google Cloud Next, which is a conference where Mark as an executive can network with top executives and technical minds and have great experiences. I'm throwing in some special sauce, probably with the Hoya Saxa expression from Google. And finally, I'm making an ask. In this case, just asking for 30 minutes. I didn't do the 20-minute ask, which is okay, but you have to end with a question and go for it. And I'm offering value in that ask to see if it makes sense to get Mark as an executive free tickets that are typically valued at around $1,000 when it comes to these big conferences. I want to finish up by saying that persistence and grit, which is the intersection of passion and perseverance, are going to be critical to your success in sales and getting that meeting. Because the reality is that a great cold email might get a customer to respond right away, but oftentimes it takes up to 6 follow-ups or more to turn a warm lead or a prospect into a client who's actually in a conversation with you. And keep following up in a multi-threaded way. I talked about the hybrid example before of where I started with an email, I used LinkedIn, you can leave voicemails, and follow up every couple days. The 48-hour rule is a great rule where you don't let 48 hours go by without a touch point or a love tap to the customer. Maybe it's even a comment on one of their LinkedIn posts. But those interactions add up over time. And I've had customers who I didn't hear from for over 9 months. For example, when I started out at Oracle, no response to any of my emails, and then they finally got back to me in the 4th quarter and it turned into a $100,000 deal. And that deal helped me get promoted to my first closing role. So keep being persistent and follow up in a multi-threaded manner. So guys, I gave you everything I've got. That was my complete guide to writing cold emails that get busy executives' attention and gets meetings. I hope you found it valuable and informative and helpful, and that you can start applying these 5 principles today to write incredible emails. If you like this video, make sure to give the like button a love tap. The YouTube algorithm loves that too, and will show this video to more people and sales reps who can benefit from the message. If you want coaching on breaking into tech sales to navigate the whole process, hit me up on LinkedIn at Chris Bussing or at my email, chrisbussingchannel@gmail.com, and we can have an exploratory combo to see if there's a fit and if we could possibly work together. And finally, make sure to subscribe for tech sales and personal growth hacks that you can chew on like snacks. Happy selling and happy living.